President Biden said he's not putting boots on the ground. Do you really think sanctions will stop Putin?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a difficult time in the region, and I just want to offer my deepest concern and sympathy for Ukrainian Americans and, of course, the people in Ukraine, the freedom-loving, democratic-loving people in Ukraine. I truly believe that we have a pathway to bring Putin to his knees. I understand that when war is in place, immediately we think of weapons and boots on the ground. Well, first, let me say that the javelins that have been sent to Ukraine have been able to knock out 15 or probably more of Russian tanks. In meeting with Ukrainians, they have said that those have been very helpful, and obviously they want more of our NATO allies and others to provide as much as they possibly can. But Russia has a very poor economy. Putin has been a very poor leader. And anything that deals with their financial business, the banks, the potential idea of the SWIFT code, which is an international process, the attacking of the oligarchs' bank accounts and closing their houses and putting them out of America, that taps into Putin's power base. He doesn't care about the regular people of Russia. And so the idea of a boots on the ground obviously does not fit for non-NATO countries. But NATO countries are surrounding Ukraine, like Lithuania, which I was just in. That president has declared a national emergency. And so I hope that we can find a way that Putin comes back to the peace table, because it's his war. It's not anyone else's war. But if not, I think the financial crush and pain and constant denial, I think it's going to hurt him very badly.
Will it be enough to pull him out of Ukraine?
Well, his operations are sloppy at best right now. And the sloppiness has generated loss of life. We are seeing in the early stages, when I was meeting with the parliamentarian from Ukraine, he reported that children were dying, women were dying or had died, and obviously soldiers, and that he'd hit hospitals. He had represented that he wasn't going to do that. I don't want to see his sloppiness go any further, but if he encroaches on any aspect of Article 5 countries, which are surrounding Ukraine, then you may see activity. We know that our soldiers are in the region. They're in Article 5 countries, like Poland. And I visited a military site before leaving to go into the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe organization, which I spoke at. I visited one of our military sites, and we had the tanks and the soldiers there, and there are more in the surrounding areas. I hope we don't come to that. I hope we can do this through defensive sanctions, and there are more to come, but we are in the surrounding areas. The United States military is in the surrounding areas.
Yeah. Will we be sending, well, let me ask you this. Will we be sending more troops to Europe, the surrounding countries around Ukraine?
More are coming. Yes, more troops are moving as we speak. I don't know how many. Once I get back to Washington, we'll be briefed, but more troops are moving in the region. And again, this is a very tight area. Latvia, Estonia, Belarus, Lithuania, Ukraine, Georgia. This is Eastern Europe. It's almost like New England, if you will, or the East Coast, with the states back to back to back in smaller geographic areas than we expect way out in the West. And this is how World War II was. The boundaries on countries are just very easily broken, if you will. I don't want to see that happen, but Russia is playing a very dangerous game. Obviously, Ukrainians are fleeing, going into Poland. Who knows what Russia may attempt to do, what they may attempt to do if they get to Kyiv, the capital, and anything can generate, unfortunately, NATO's actions if they decide to do that in protecting Article 5 countries. And those are the membership countries going forward. I'm looking for a ceasing of firepower. I'm looking for some sanity in Putin to be able to indicate that he's accomplished what he wanted to do, that allegedly he's protected the Russians on the border, and that there can be some diplomatic response. If not, keep pressing him financially, keep pressing him economically, because people are losing their lives. And it is shameful. As a mother, it is shameful to see little children dying because of the viciousness of this purposeless, immoral, and senseless war.
I have a final question, and I want you to be clear here. What line does Putin have to cross before the U.S. and its European allies act with force?
Well, they have been holding fast to the NATO defense mechanism, and NATO only goes on membership. Ukraine is not a member. But if the tragedy of war, the violence, the indiscriminate bombing of Putin impacts any border area where our troops are, where NATO allies are, the Article 5 kicks in, and there will be, I think, a deep response.
Military response.
I don't know military response, because they will be Article 5 countries that have been impacted close to the border. There'll be Article 5, or our soldiers who are in those areas. Putin, again, is without reason. He has not been able to be reasoned with, and no one can explain the horror in what he is doing. You know what, Len? He even had the audacity to suggest he was fighting Nazism. And I said in my remarks today, he's wearing the evil hat of Nazism, because it is insane. President Zelensky is a Jewish individual, the Jewish faith. And he is claiming Nazism in democratically controlled Ukraine. I don't know what his thinking is, but I was outraged, and we're all outraged. And we joined together collectively in this meeting today to denounce his actions. And these were countries from all over Europe. So I don't know how long he can last. This Europe is not the Europe of World War II. It is not. And there is a resolve in the Ukrainians to fight. The individual that I sat with and spoke with, the parliamentarian, his son is being called up today, 26 years old. All the young men are being called up. They're giving guns and they're going to fight. I just hate to see the results of this loss of life if that happens. He will be leaving. 17 hours it's going to take him to get back to Ukraine. It is a very troubling and crisis-focused time, but I do think that Ukraine will be hearing from the countries around the world. They will find some way to ensure that Ukraine is not standing alone in this fight.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, we thank you for your time. Safe travels home.
Thank you. Peace I want most of all for all of us. Thank you so very much.
Yes, ma'am. Safe travels.